Reports, a service of Editor and Publisher magazine since 1884, the authoritative voice of news publishing. And hi, I'm Mike Blinder, publisher of E&P. And today, in the world of corporate downsizing and hedge fund takeovers, E&P is proud to bring you a story about growth. That's right, growth in our industry, where print is alive and well, along with a thriving digital environment. We're talking this week about community impact newspapers. That goes back to 2005, when John P. Garrett launched his first publication in Round Rock, Texas. And since then now, CIN has 200 impactors. That's what they call their staff in Texas. And also moving now into Phoenix, Arizona, with a Metro publication there. And as we speak, CIN is launching in Atlanta Metro. Today, we go one-on-one with Allison Altobelli. She is the publisher of the new Atlanta CIN edition and also president of the Newspaper Advertising Coalition. Let's join E&P's managing editor, Evelyn Mateos, one-on-one with Allison Altobelli.
Thanks for joining us on E&P Reports, Allison.
Sure.
Tell me about Community Impact Newspaper, which I'll refer to as CIN from here on out, if that's all right.
Yeah.
What should audiences know about the kind of work that they're doing and what makes the organization unique?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'm happy to share the answer. So, Community Impact Newspaper started out of Pflugerville, Texas, by a husband and wife team, John and Jennifer Garrett. And they started it because they wanted to make sure that citizens in their community knew what was going on. For example, when you're driving down the street and you see a new construction project or there's construction on the roads and you don't know what's happening and you turn to your local news sources, but they don't really drill down to the hyper local level. The purpose of Community Impact Newspaper is to inform local citizens and build communities of locally informed citizens and to help local businesses thrive and to do it through a passionate team. And so what has happened is that the community has responded in kind to community impact in Austin. Well, Pflugerville is in the Austin metro area. And then it has since expanded out into Houston and to Dallas and to Phoenix and Nashville. And starting in March of 2020, we will be taking it to Atlanta, Georgia, where I will be the publisher. And I have to tell you, I've been living in Atlanta now for 3 years. And I think from what I've seen in the communities, this type of information is probably needed more than in any other community that I've visited, because I talk to the local folks and I say, well, what's going on over there? Like, I see a new development project. I see construction happening. What is that? And most people are like, I don't know. So I feel like what we're bringing to the table is something that is really useful. And what drove me to join CIN is the fact that it's very mission oriented. Like, we are there to live our mission, right? And it's not about, becoming a major media conglomerate, as we've seen a lot happen in our industry. We are mission first. So every time we're meeting with local business owners or city government, or we're reporting on schools or transportation, everything is about informing the local citizens and helping the businesses thrive. So for me, that makes me feel like I'm doing something good with my career and my talents, that I can help people. So it's really exciting to get this thing launched.
Absolutely. So do you want to get into, what kind of inspired that expansion into Atlanta? And sure. I know it has a lot to do with your own journey, so please feel free to share the details.
Sure, absolutely. So a lot of the people who know me in the industry have known that I've spent the majority of my career at the major metros. I spent a lot of time at the Washington Post, where I learned a lot and sort of honed my career skills. And then I spent some time at the Philadelphia Inquirer, and I also spent time at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. And over that course of time, it's no secret that newspapers have gone through financial constraints that have forced the reduction in local coverage. So over this past summer, I had left the AJC at the end of May, and I was kind of looking for what my next opportunity was going to be. I knew John Garrett through LinkedIn, out of all places, which I know sounds so crazy. John and I had never met before, But in the search for what my new career prospect was going to be, I figured I'd reach out to him. And I said, hey, John, you know everybody in the industry. Can you help connect me and help me identify what my next path is going to be? And immediately John was like, can you jump on a phone call? And I said, sure. And he said, you know, I've been looking at the Atlanta area for CI's expansion for a long time. Would you be interested in leading the charge as our publisher? And what they do is they normally start with like one community, usually in the outskirts. They don't start within the city, and then they expand and grow from there. So the Austin Metro has, I think, 9 or 10 different communities that they're in. Dallas is in 8, Houston is in 12. And so in coming to Atlanta, they were like, well, will you start us off with one community and help us grow outward? And I got to tell you, like at first I'm like, this is a real significant pivot from what I've done with my career. And I sort of already had in my head, like my boxes were packed. I was ready to move for the next major market opportunity and go take, you know, some VP job heading a sales department. But when I spoke to John and I heard him communicate the mission, it just registered in my mind that it's like, man, this is what I want to do. Like for years, I've been wanting to start my own newspaper, and it's essentially like running a startup, right? But I'm running a startup with somebody else's money, but it's still my baby. And I have the opportunity to do something for the first time in my life that I've never been able to do. And what drives me about CI's mission is that they're print first. And so for a long time, I have felt conflicted. And, you know, I published an article on LinkedIn about the moral conflicts that I've faced as a lot of newspapers have transitioned to a digital future. And I think, and my experience has been that transition to that digital future required the abandonment of print. And I just struggled with that internally because I knew how powerful the print and the legacy product was. And I didn't want to sacrifice that in order to pursue a digital future that I had never really been convinced was going to be there for us. So, and I've used this analogy like 100 times, so I hope the people who are watching this will understand this. If you've ever seen the movie The Land Before Time, the dinosaurs, right? They're sort of like trekking through a land of despair. It's like they're baby dinosaurs, and they're looking for the oasis land, and they keep running into other dinosaurs that are like, it's not worth it. The land is dying. You'll never find the oasis. And I just kept going with this like print mission, like, no, like print is alive and well. It just has to be invested in, and it's going to be great. And at the end of the movie, The Land Before Time, the dinosaurs find the oasis land where all of the other dinosaurs like them are, and there's food and everything is green and everybody's happy. And that's sort of been what my experience is with coming to Community Impact. I mean, I can't articulate it enough. Like the people that work for this company are what make the company magic. Everybody is so happy, and they're so happy in a company that's print first. It's like I've found my people, you know? And so with that, it's like, I think we've heard that mantra so many times, print is dead, print is dead. But the reality is it's totally not dead. You just have to find a model that works. So with that, let me actually explain what the model is. So the newspaper, it only comes out monthly, right? And with that, at first I was like, that's an odd model. But then I got into it and I was like, okay, here's how it works. They pick a community. And so in Georgia, we're launching in Alpharetta, which is a community north of the city. And they direct mail it to every single household and to every single business in that community, because the mission is everybody deserves to know what's going on in their own backyard. And for me, I came from a world where subscriptions sort of dominated who was going to get the news. But in this model, it's like, no, everybody's going to get the news. So with the once a month model and it going into mailboxes, it sort of takes away that challenge of like continuing to grow subscriptions and relying on people paying for your product. Instead, by abandoning the subscription model and going mass saturation to everybody, it ensures that you're going to be able to continue that audience reach on a monthly basis and deliver that consistency, which has always been a problem, right, for newspapers who are like, well, our circulation has declined again, our circulation has declined again. And that's what makes everybody think print is dead, when really it's not. I think it's just it's changing the paradigm. It's changing the model of not relying on print subscriptions, but instead ensuring that everybody that resides there is able to read what you have to offer.
So first of all, I love the Land Before Time metaphor.
Okay, good.
That's great. I feel like a lot of people can relate. And now, so you kind of mentioned, I believe, that essay on your LinkedIn profile, right? What has kind of been the reaction to that? Have you gotten, anybody reach out about it, share their thoughts?
I mean, honestly, I've been overwhelmed with the reactions. I mean, some of them so emotional that they brought me to tears, because in the article, I shared not just my professional journey, but also my personal journey. And I wasn't sure at first if I really wanted to share all those details, but then I thought to myself, if I can help people with my story, then that's worth sharing. And so the number of people who reached out to me, both like on the comment section, but then also through direct messages, I heard a lot of people tell me, wow, this was like reading my own story. I had the same experience, and I'm a believer in print, and I know print can keep working, and like, thank you for sharing this and for being an advocate for the industry. And it just like reiterated to me that I did the right thing. But I also am cognizant of the fact that like just writing an article doesn't do anything, right? You have to put action into what you stand for. And so for me, making the decision to kind of like go in a very different direction than the major market newspapers, and instead go to work for a company that maybe not everybody knows, but is growing with a print first product with a culture of people that are like, I mean, these people are like, I don't ever want to work anywhere else. I love this company. And I joined newspapers in 2004. And at that point, I felt like the culture was already being challenged, because the reality is that when people stop making money because they're not hitting their sales goals, they're not as happy in their jobs as they used to be. But these people are just happy. And it makes me happy, and like sort of like energizes me knowing that like building this in Atlanta, I can bring sort of my own energy and happiness that I have about the industry, and make sure that that is contagious to all the people that I employ here.
So it sounds like everyone at CIN must be really excited about the expansion. Can you tell me what their reaction has been like?
Yeah, so the way we did it was really I thought it was phenomenal, the way that John suggested that we announce the launch to the company. So every year, John and Jennifer fly all of their employees from all of their markets to the Pflugerville headquarters for an annual conference called Thrive. And John and I had made the decision to partner together to launch in Atlanta back in August, but the conference wasn't until October. So I had to keep a secret. And anybody that knows me knows that like, that's not my forte, right? Like if it's a secret that everyone's going to find out, I'm going to tell people. So I had to be really buttoned up about not telling anybody. And so I attended the conference, and a lot of the employees, there's about close to 300 employees that work for CI. And I'm attending the conference, and people are looking around being like, who's that, And so at the end of the conference, I joined John on stage, and we sat down for, I guess, what would be like a fireside chat. And he positioned me as an industry expert. And at the end of the conversation, he said, Allison, where do you think that the next market is, or the next metro that CI should launch in? And I was like, I think Atlanta would be a good option. And we had pre-planned the whole thing. And he was like, you know what? I think that's a great idea. So we sort of stood up and held our hands up high, and we're like, we're going to Atlanta in 2020. And the applause, the roaring applause was like so humbling, but also like so empowering, because I'm just like, this is the right thing. When you have like that feeling in your gut that you're just like, man, this is the right thing. Like that's what it felt like. And since then, so my onboarding was basically that I got to go to all the different markets: Austin, Dallas, Houston. I'm going out to Phoenix next week. I was in Nashville last week, and I'm spending time with all the employees. And everyone has been like, anything you need, I'm here to help you. And not to mention the fact that there are a lot of internal candidates who are interested in moving to Atlanta to help get this thing launched. So I've had that pleasure as well. And again, it's just been like, it's been a very different experience than what I've had in my traditional roles. And I'm not saying that everybody is like womp womp, woe is me at the traditional newspapers, but there is some of that, right? But it's not everybody. But here I don't see any of that, and I think a lot of that comes from the fact that like a lot of the people that CI hires are like not newspaper people, and that was a surprise to me. I interacted with some of the employees at the conference, and I said, well, what were you doing before you joined CI? And one of the employees was like, well, I was selling food services for Cisco. And I was like, you don't have any media experience? And he was like, no. And I was like, well, how are you doing? And he's like, well, I'm hitting my goals and I'm crushing it. And I was like, wow, and it like shows me that by hiring from sort of all sorts of industries, you bring different experiences and maybe not like any preconceived notions about what media is going through. Because again, it's not a secret that like media is challenged right now, but it's good challenge. I think anybody that works in it and especially still has the belief that print is alive and well, like those people want the challenge of making this work. And so, here I am.
That's incredible. It sounds like you're on the most fun journey you can be on right now with these people that are just, so passionate about what they're doing. And yeah. I'm amazed that so many of these people come from all sorts of industries, Yeah. So with that said, what are kind of the steps that CIN is, taking to get the ball rolling?
Oh, in Atlanta or in general?
In Atlanta, I'm sorry.
Sure. Okay, so it's been like, there are things that I'm doing that I have never done before. So I'm like, sometimes I wake up and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to fake it till I make it. Like, perfect example, John was in town this week and we were hunting for office space. I've never been responsible for like identifying and securing office space for a team of people. And it's sort of outside my realm of media experience, but I'm also enjoying it because it's like I said, I'm building something from the ground up. So we're securing office space. I think we found a location. It's awesome. I'm really excited about it, but I haven't signed the lease, so I don't want to talk about it just yet. But like securing the office space and identifying the team of employees. So right now I'm interviewing for a sales position, an editor position, and a graphic designer. And that's sort of like our core team that will get us started in the first market. And as we expand outwards, I'll hire those people for so if we expand into another town, I'll have another seller, another editor, and another designer. And that's sort of what the unique model is about CI, is that they have a dedicated journalist and sometimes a reporter, depending on how big the market is, just dedicated to that town. And I think that's like a huge primary differentiator, because in the other media, they've had to reduce that coverage, right? So having a dedicated journalist who goes to all the city hall meetings and is doing all the meetings with like the city manager, that's so critical. So that's what we're starting with, is hiring people, getting the office space up and running. And I've been out sort of canvassing the market, just walking into businesses, meeting with local leaders, joining the Chamber of Commerce, and sort of like getting really involved in the community. It's been very refreshing for me because I have spent, I don't know, the last 5 years of my career behind an office, right? And not really being like ingrained in the community. And it's so refreshing to be back out in front of people. And I'll tell you, like the welcome has been like overwhelmingly positive. I walk into local businesses and they're like, oh, you're starting a newspaper? That's awesome. Now, none of them have been like, I want to advertise. We'll get there, right? Like, we're going to get to that point. But at this point, it's just telling them that like, I'm here to provide news and information and real journalism about your community where you live. And who's going to say, I don't want that? That is a very positive message to convey. So I feel very grateful that I have the chance to be the one to convey the message.
So with that said, how do you see yourself kind of running this Atlanta location?
Well, anyone who's worked for me knows I'm very high energy. You've probably picked up on that from this discussion, right? So the day-to-day is like, especially in the beginning, like, and I don't want to sugarcoat this for anyone, it is a grind in the beginning because nobody knows who you are in Atlanta. Down in Texas, they have so much brand equity with community impact that you kind of walk into any business and people are like, I love that newspaper. But here, the struggle is going to be like getting a name for ourselves. And people, they'll get it in their mailbox. And we always say, like, you don't get it until you get it. And it does take like a couple of months for people to really get it and start reading it and being like, wow, this is a resource that I've needed for a while. So like running it day to day in the beginning, I'm going to be out on the street with my team, with my editor, with my seller, every day meeting with as many people as we possibly can just to kind of get the word out. And they said it's going to be probably about like 2 years of the grind, but like really it takes about like 5 years or so to be in a market where people know you, welcome you, and are, you know, giving you a lot of accolades for what you're doing for the community.
Great. So I know it's a lot of work. I know you guys have so much ahead of you, but what does it feel like, you know, to be opening a newsroom, hiring reporters when so many people, so many organizations are kind of cutting back?
I mean, this goes back to, for me, what the mission has always been. And I come from the sales side, right? I don't come from the news side, but I have always found purpose in what I do, which was to drive revenue to support local journalism, right? And that, again, I think is like inherent to the people who have stuck it out in this industry throughout all these years that have been super challenging. And there are days that you go home, especially on the sales side, where you're like, oh God, print really is dead. Like nobody wants to buy this product anymore. But at the end of the day, like we're all here for the right reason, and the people that have stayed in the industry. And so now everything that I've done on the sales side, which is to support local journalism, now as the publisher, I really get to take action to make that happen. And you wouldn't believe the number of applicants we've had for the editor role. I mean, there are people who, I mean, you have kids going to college to pursue journalism careers, knowing that there aren't that many jobs out there, right? So me being able to provide jobs and provide news information, again, to build communities of informed citizens, like it just feels, it feels really good. But it's not just the feeling good of like being able to provide the news. It's like, I'm also building something that's growing. And like I have managed decline for my entire career. So that like contributes to the positive energy that I'm going to bring to the team. And the other model that's like kind of different is the fact that like our products at Community Impact are 100% like integrity based. We have no pay for play advertising. So we do not allow advertisers to influence our editorial whatsoever. But that being said, editorial and advertising work together more closely in this company than I've ever seen. Like they all report into the same person while being able to maintain that journalistic integrity. And again, that's something I'm super proud of, not just being able to provide jobs, but also like real legit journalism that's not, you know, that's not influenced by advertising. So it's
right,
good.
Definitely. Yeah. So now at the beginning, you kind of mentioned, you know, the first edition can be expected in March 2020, which is very exciting. How will CIN celebrate?
Oh, great question. So we're definitely going to be throwing a launch party. When and where, I have no idea, but stay tuned. And if anybody lives in the Atlanta area and they'd like to come, they're welcome to reach out to me. Typically what we do for launch parties, and we always do a launch party for every market where we launch in every state, we invite members of the chamber. We would love for the mayor to be there and other members of city council. And like I said, like our purpose is to be like one with the community. So we want everyone to come out and celebrate with us.
Great. Well, it sounds like CIN knows how to throw a party. So we'll definitely keep an eye out for it.
Evelyn, you are welcome to attend. I know you live in California, but come on out. You're welcome.
Okay, so what else is coming up? And if you want to shout out any platforms where everyone can reach you, if they have any questions or would like more information, please do share.
So first and foremost, I'm big on LinkedIn, so please find me on LinkedIn. It's Allison Altobelli, Altobelli. So find me there, but you can also shoot me an email. My email address is aaltobelli@communityimpact.com. It's aaltobelli@communityimpact.com. Feel free to reach out to me for anything. If you guys have questions about the company or about the model, would love to chat. But I also have to throw in a plug. So I'm the president of a newspaper trade organization called the News Advertising Coalition, and it's a membership-based org, but we have an annual conference coming up in St. Louis. It's April 20th through the 22nd, and it's open to anybody to attend. You just have to register on our website, which of course I don't know what that is right now. So just reach out to me and I'll tell you what it is. But it's News Advertising Coalition, and it's an advertising based conference, but it is complete multimedia. So we talk about print, digital, and live events. And really what it is, it's an intimate setting where we're just conversing with each other about what works and what doesn't work, and sharing ideas so we can take them to our own markets to launch. So obviously this year, I'm going to be talking a lot about the importance of hyper-local community journalism and gaining that support from your hyper-local advertisers as well. And I know that that is a topic that a lot of newspapers are thinking about right now, in that you have all this scale from digital and Facebook and Google, and you can reach everybody, but how do you reach people who are in your own backyard? So I know that we're going to be talking a lot about that. So News Advertising Coalition, St. Louis, April 20th through the 22nd. Find me on LinkedIn or go to the website, communityimpact.com, and you can find more information there.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us on EMP Reports, Allison.
Sure, no problem. Thanks.